Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's explainer. If you just take a look around, it's pretty obvious our highly connected modern world has completely shattered traditional engineering rules. We're no longer just building these standalone, isolated machines. We're building massive, interwoven webs of technology. I mean, from smart cities to global defense networks, we've literally entered the era of the system of systems. And to actually succeed here, well, we have to completely rethink how we manage and build complex projects. To keep things on track, here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll nail down exactly what a system of systems is. Then we'll look at their key characteristics, compare traditional systems engineering with this new approach, tackle the major pain points, and finally, explore some tailored frameworks. All right, Section 1, Defining Systems of Systems. Before we can engineer a solution, we really need to establish a solid baseline of what we actually mean when we say System of Systems, or SOS for short.
So if we look at the official ISO standard, a system of systems is defined as a set of systems, or system elements, that interact to provide a unique capability that none of the constituent systems can accomplish on its own. Now that phrase right there, unique capability, that is absolutely the magic ingredient here. An SOS basically takes existing, fully functioning pieces and combines them to do something entirely new. It literally makes the whole exponentially greater than the sum of its parts.
So the really crucial point to grasp is that the building blocks of an SOS, which we call constituent systems, well, they already have their own jobs. They were developed totally independently, they have their own management goals, and they manage their own resources. It's kind of like taking fully functional, independent businesses and suddenly forcing them to share a single supply chain. They are perfectly useful all by themselves, but now they have to cooperate for a much larger goal.
Moving right along to Section 2, Key Characteristics of SOS. With so many wildly complicated things out there, how do we actually spot a true system of systems in the wild?
Way back in 1998, a researcher named Maier laid out 5 key characteristics that define an SOS. We've got operational independence, managerial independence, geographical distribution, emergent behavior, and evolutionary development processes. Honestly, just reading that list out loud gives you a massive hint as to why these systems are so incredibly difficult to manage. I mean, they're spread out all over the place, they behave in totally unpredictable ways, and they're constantly evolving while you are actively trying to build them. But listen, here is the absolute golden rule you need to remember today. Out of those 5 characteristics we just listed, only 2 are strictly mandatory: operational independence and managerial independence. Seriously, it doesn't matter how complex your software is, or if your hardware is literally spread across 5 continents. If the smaller constituent systems don't operate and manage themselves independently, you're not looking at a system of systems. Without both of those traits, it's really just one giant, highly complicated traditional system.
Which brings us to Section 3, Traditional SE versus SoS. So what actually happens when traditional systems engineering, the tried and true methods we've relied on for decades, runs headfirst into a real system of systems? Well, spoiler alert, it gets pretty messy.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core conflict. Traditional systems engineering, it absolutely thrives on top-level authority. You have a boss, you have strict requirements, and you have incredibly explicit agreements. But systems of systems engineering, or SoS, operates in a world where those explicit agreements basically just don't exist. Instead, you have to rely heavily on cross-cutting analysis and, quite frankly, sheer influence. You're essentially trying to build a skyscraper without actually being allowed to tell the steelworkers what to do. Look at it this way. Under traditional SE, you've got centralized control and a clear top-down architecture. But jump over to SoC, and your technical management is reduced to cross-cutting planning, all while the constituent systems are happily self-managing. Your technical processes, they're highly constrained by independent architectures that are already in place. In SoC, you're basically trying to steer a massive, heavy ship, but all the rowers are listening to completely different captains.
All right, Section 4, Major SoS Pain Points. Because of this exact lack of a single unified captain, engineers face some really massive hurdles. Let's look at the inevitable pain points that pop up in this kind of decentralized chaos.
I want you to ask yourself a question. What actually happens when independent, highly complex systems, things that were never originally designed to talk to each other, are suddenly forced to cooperate? I mean, just think about the friction you get in a normal human group project, right? Now, multiply that friction by millions of lines of code or billions of dollars in hardware. Yikes.
The International Council on Systems Engineering, SOS, has actually cataloged these major pain points. And right at the very top, the lack of SOS authority. There is absolutely no single owner. And because of that, leadership has to rely almost entirely on influence and persuasion rather than direct command. Then you've got conflicting perspectives. What's good for the overall SOS might actually hurt a constituent system. And finally, you get unanticipated emergent behaviors, where just combining perfectly safe individual systems accidentally creates unexpected and sometimes pretty dangerous new risks. Navigating this is just as much a political balancing act as it is an engineering one.
So it's pretty clear the old tools are completely broken for this job. I mean, you wouldn't use a hammer to bake a cake, right? In the same way, you just can't use traditional top-down engineering to manage an independent system of systems. We absolutely need a brand new toolkit to survive here. And that brings us to Section 5, Tailored SoS Frameworks. Fortunately for us, the engineering community hasn't just been sitting around. They've been hard at work developing exactly that. Let's explore some of the new methodologies specifically tailored to wrangle all this SoS chaos. First up, we'll start with ETC, or Enhanced Traditional SE. Basically, this takes traditional top-down engineering and adapts it for portfolios of projects. It's okay, but it really only works well in slowly changing environments where you actually still have a bit of centralized control. Compare that to CSE, Complex Systems Engineering. This one completely ditches the top-down approach. It's built on complexity theory, and it's designed for rapid integration in environments where you just adapt to the systems that are already present, rather than stubbornly trying to force them to change.
Then we have this even more radical approach called DOS VM. Now this one completely flips the script. It openly recognizes that a central authority simply doesn't have the money or the power to force changes. So in DOS VM, you actually let the independent, constituent systems guide the evolution themselves. They optimize the greater SOS based entirely on their own unique points of view and their own local resources. It's honestly a brilliant survival strategy for environments where you have absolutely zero central control.
Next up is SOSIG, or SOSIG governance. What I personally love about this framework is that it admits right out of the gate that this isn't just about the tech. SOSIG expands the whole engineering mindset to include real-world context and governance. It takes a big step back from a technology-only perspective to take a long-term evolutionary view. It's all about figuring out what collaborative initiatives are actually feasible given the messy, decentralized politics of all the systems involved. Now check out the WAVE model, developed by the U.S. Department of Defense. This is cool because it isn't just a single process. It's a meta-methodology, basically a master framework that actively guides the design of your entire SOSI approach. It incorporates a ton of experiential learning and focuses heavily on evolutionary development. And because it's so incredibly tailorable, you can use the WAVE model whether you're just a small startup team or you're trying to manage a massive international defense program. It is the ultimate adaptable tool. So we've journeyed all the way from defining these incredibly complex webs of technology to learning exactly how to survive them using specialized frameworks that just completely throw out traditional top-down management. I really want to leave you with this final provocative thought today. As our entire world rapidly becomes one giant system of systems, where literally everything connects to everything else, is your own engineering and project management mindset actually ready to evolve past the illusion of total control? Let that sink in for a bit. Adapt your toolkit and definitely keep learning. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.